Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt invisible? Not because you lack beauty, but because the world stopped noticing. But what if I told you that one simple shift could change that? Not with surgery, not with noise, but with color. In this video, we're going to reveal the 6 most powerful colors that instantly make women over 60 stand out, without ever needing to say a word. Because when you wear the right color, you don't just get noticed, you get remembered. If you've ever felt overlooked, not because you lack beauty, but because the world stopped paying attention, this video is for you. Stay with me. What you're about to hear isn't about fashion. It's about rediscovering the quiet power you've always carried. Red has always been more than a color. It's a signal, a presence, a silent declaration that someone has arrived, not loudly, not arrogantly, but with full confidence in who she is. For centuries, red has been the color of power and allure. But for women over 60, it becomes something even more profound. It becomes a reminder that life, no matter the season, still pulses with intensity. Carmen once wore a fitted red suit to a family gathering. She didn't plan to turn heads. But before she even reached her seat, people were asking, "Who is she?" Not because they didn't know her, but because something had changed. It wasn't the suit itself. It was the energy it gave her permission to embody. That's the quiet power of red. It doesn't scream. It radiates. It doesn't demand attention. It attracts it naturally, with a presence that lingers. Red has also been studied extensively. Psychologists have long noted how it stimulates the senses, evokes warmth, and signals vitality. For mature women, it offers a unique paradox. It's bold and timeless at once. It reminds the world, and more importantly ourselves, that age is not the opposite of radiance. It is the ripening of it. But wearing red isn't about dressing like someone else. It's about rediscovering your own fire. For some, it's a lipstick that catches the light in conversation. For others, a wine-toned blouse with just the right neckline. Or a silk scarf that flutters gently but leaves a powerful impression. In a world that often tries to quiet older women, red does the opposite. It affirms your presence. It announces nothing, and yet it says everything. In the coming chapters, we'll explore more shades that do this in their own way. But red is where we begin. Not because it's loud, but because it's true. Some colors don't speak loudly, they simply stay, like a calm presence in a noisy room. Deep blue is one of them. It doesn't need to sparkle or shine to be noticed. Its power lies in stillness, in grace, in the way it settles into a space and elevates it without effort. For many women, blue becomes more than a favorite color. It becomes a companion. Sandra, now 79, once said she never chooses anything else when shopping. Her eyes, her skin, her spirit, they've all found their home in deep blue. People often comment on how elegant she looks, even when she's dressed in something simple. That's the subtle magnetism of a color that knows who it is. Deep blue has long been associated with wisdom, trust, and introspection. It draws people in, not with intensity, but with depth. It doesn't rush to impress. It invites reflection. For mature women, this is not just beautiful, it is empowering. It reflects the inner world with honesty and calm strength. There is also versatility in deep blue. It adapts, it anchors. A navy coat can soften the sharpness of winter. A sapphire blouse can highlight the clarity in your eyes. A midnight blue scarf can wrap you in sophistication without saying a word. Unlike black, which can sometimes feel severe, or brighter colors, which may compete with natural features, blue finds harmony. It enhances without overwhelming. It complements without controlling. When a woman wears deep blue, she doesn't vanish. She becomes unmistakably present, not by force, but by essence. She doesn't need trends or noise. She carries with her something more lasting: self-respect, quiet courage, and timeless beauty. As we move through the next colors, remember this. Sometimes, the strongest presence is not the one that shouts. It's the one that holds still, with intention, with grace, with deep blue. Blush pink is not a color that competes. It does not enter a room with a trumpet, nor does it chase attention. Instead, it lingers, softly, warmly, like a memory that returns at just the right moment. For women in their later years, this shade offers something rare: quiet elegance with a glow of timeless femininity. Unlike brighter pinks that can feel playful or overly youthful, blush pink carries a whisper of sophistication. It softens rather than brightens. It calms rather than excites. And yet, it is never dull. It is the gentle voice that gets heard not because it's loud, but because it's true. Blush pink has long been linked to tenderness, kindness, and compassion. But when worn by a woman who has lived, who has seen beauty and pain, who has learned what truly matters, it takes on a deeper meaning. It becomes a reflection of grace earned through years, of strength that no longer needs to shout. Evelyn, a retired teacher in her 70s, never considered herself particularly stylish. But something changed when she began wearing soft pink sweaters. People started to stop her in the market. They said she looked peaceful or refined. She hadn't changed anything else. Just the color. And in that color, others began to see something she had long overlooked in herself: warmth, poise, and presence. There is something about blush pink that invites connection. It brings out the warmth in the skin, softens the sharpness of age, and creates a sense of light from within. It is not reserved for spring or weddings. It belongs in everyday moments: a scarf draped over the shoulders, a rose-toned blouse beneath a neutral jacket, a soft cardigan worn for a walk at dusk. Some women avoid pink as they grow older, believing it to be a shade meant for the young. But blush pink does not belong to youth. It belongs to serenity. It belongs to the woman who has nothing to prove, who no longer dresses to impress, but to express. It belongs to the woman who understands that gentleness is not weakness, and that true strength often arrives wrapped in softness. The magic of blush pink is not just in how it looks, but how it makes others feel around you. It welcomes without words. It calms without effort. It leaves an impression without ever having to try. In the palette of a life well lived, blush pink is the stroke that adds warmth, dignity, and the kind of beauty that time can never erase. There are colors that reflect light. And there are colors that seem to hold it within. Emerald green is one of the latter. It does not sparkle with superficial shine. It glows from a deeper place, from richness, from wisdom, from the silent strength of someone who has learned to stand without needing applause. Emerald green is not the green of springtime or meadows. It is the green of depth, of the forest just after rain. It evokes something ancient and grounding. And when worn by a mature woman, it creates an immediate and unforgettable impression. It says, without words, that this is someone who knows who she is. Diane, once a high-level executive and now happily retired, wears emerald green in the form of tailored jackets and soft cashmere tops. She says it took her decades to embrace the color fully. Not because she didn't like it, but because she didn't yet feel ready for it. "Green doesn't just suit me," she once told a friend. "It mirrors the steadiness I worked hard to earn." Emerald green is associated with renewal and abundance, but not the kind that comes quickly. It is the wealth of inner calm, of resilience built over time. In many cultures, it's seen as the color of the heart, not just love, but truth, growth, and integrity. For women over 60, it becomes more than fashion. It becomes a frame through which the world sees their grace, their self-respect, and their quiet refusal to fade. What makes emerald so powerful is its balance. It carries the gravitas of black, without its heaviness. It has the vibrancy of red, without its demand for attention. It holds the calm of blue, yet stands firmly in its own identity. And this balance, this harmony of boldness and restraint, is exactly what makes it so dignified. Whether in a long flowing dress or a simple accessory, a scarf, a ring, a silk blouse, emerald green elevates. It is not worn to be noticed, but it will always be seen. There's a moment in every woman's life when she no longer needs permission to take up space. When presence becomes effortless. Emerald green belongs to that moment. It doesn't seek to prove anything. It simply reminds everyone watching that beauty, when rooted in wisdom, is never loud, but it is always profound. Not all colors are meant to shout. Some exist to soothe, to bring light where there is shadow, to remind us that simplicity can be the most powerful form of sophistication. Warm ivory is such a color. It doesn't compete. It doesn't demand. It simply rests with grace, allowing the woman who wears it to shine through, effortlessly. Ivory has long been a symbol of refinement. Unlike stark white, which can feel cold or clinical, warm ivory carries with it a softness that flatters without washing out. It brings light to the face, glow to the skin, and balance to the entire appearance. It whispers of old-world charm, of handwritten letters, of evenings spent in meaningful conversation rather than noise. Margaret, a former magazine editor in her 70s, learned early in her career the power of understatement. She tells a story of a conference she once attended in New York, where every woman seemed to wear bold colors, sharp suits, statement jewelry. Margaret arrived in a cream cashmere coat, a silk ivory blouse, and no accessories beyond a gold watch. "No one spoke when I entered," she recalls. But later, several came to ask me what designer I was wearing. The truth was, it wasn't the clothing. It was the calm. Ivory has that rare ability to elevate everything around it, not by standing out, but by creating space. It's the color of restraint and confidence, of knowing that power can exist without performance. In a world full of excess, ivory is the return to quiet luxury. And it is versatile. Ivory works beautifully in both daytime and evening settings. A flowing blouse for a Sunday brunch. A structured jacket over a pastel dress for a dinner gathering. It pairs seamlessly with rich earth tones like camel and taupe, with soft metallics like gold and rose, and even with darker hues like deep green or navy. But beyond its aesthetic value, ivory also carries a message. It tells the world that a woman does not need to hide behind bright colors or bold patterns to be seen. That she knows who she is, and more importantly, she is no longer afraid to let her natural presence take center stage. For many women, embracing ivory means letting go of the belief that beauty must be dramatic. It is an invitation to return to what feels real, to what feels grounded. And in that return, they discover something far more lasting than trend, the timeless elegance of simply being. There is something quietly captivating about lavender. Not the deep purples of royalty or the bright violets of youth, but the softened, gentle lavender that seems to carry with it a memory of gardens in the early morning, of handwritten notes, of a presence that heals simply by being near. Lavender is not a color that dominates. It does not seek attention. And yet, when worn by a woman with grace and life behind her eyes, it becomes magnetic. Perhaps because it suggests something we don't often see in modern fashion: tranquility. Helen, a retired musician in her early 70s, once shared that lavender became her color during a time of personal transition. After losing her partner, she found herself drawn to it instinctively. It wasn't planned. It was intuitive. A scarf here, a blouse there, then a full-length coat one winter. What surprised her wasn't how the color made her feel, but how others responded to her in it. They leaned in. They lingered. They asked if she had changed something. Lavender has long been linked to healing, to calm, and to emotional clarity. In color psychology, it's known to lower tension and open emotional channels. But beyond the science, there's a feeling it evokes, one of safety, quiet strength, and soft wisdom. For women over 60, it does not try to replicate youth. It reveals depth. What makes lavender special is its ability to shift depending on how it is worn. When paired with soft grays or ivory, it becomes ethereal. When placed next to deep blue or plum, it gains richness. Whether in the form of a flowing knit, a silk scarf, or a pastel blouse, lavender finds its way to the heart of the viewer, not through brightness, but through emotional presence. Some may overlook this shade, thinking it too gentle, too soft to matter. But that is the mistake. Lavender does not need to matter to everyone. It only needs to connect with the right moments, the right light, the right feeling. And when it does, it stays in memory far longer than louder colors ever could. Lavender is the color of emotional elegance. It is the hue of reflection and grace. It suits the woman who no longer needs the world's approval, only the comfort of her own skin, her own rhythm, her own truth. Color is more than fabric, more than pigment. It is presence. It is expression. And for women who have lived, loved, endured, and grown, color becomes something sacred. It becomes a language, spoken not with words, but with feeling. You've just explored 6 colors. 6 paths into visibility. Not the visibility that seeks approval or validation, but the kind that reconnects you with the woman you already are. Red with its bold certainty. Deep blue with its reflective calm. Blush pink with its tender grace. Emerald green with its rooted strength. Ivory with its timeless poise. And lavender with its healing warmth. Each shade has a different voice. Each one says something unique. But none of them are about changing who you are. They are about revealing what time has quietly shaped within you: elegance, power, softness, and wisdom. Somewhere along the way, society told older women to step back, to wear less, to be less, to not take up too much space. But color defies that command. It reminds the world, and you, that age is not the end of expression. It's the full bloom of it. When you choose a color that aligns with your energy, something shifts. You walk differently. You engage differently. And those around you feel it. Not because you've added something artificial, but because you've allowed something authentic to rise to the surface. This is not about chasing compliments or crafting a new persona. It's about choosing, every morning, to honor your reflection. To see the woman who has endured. The woman who has softened without losing her strength. The woman who has grown more radiant not in spite of age, but because of it. You do not need to ask for permission to be beautiful. You do not need to follow anyone else's rules to be seen. You are the story. You are the presence. And color is simply the frame. So as you move through your days, whether you are walking into a gathering or simply looking into the mirror, let your colors reflect the truth. Not the trends. Not the expectations. But your essence. You are not fading. You are blooming. And the world is better when you allow yourself to be seen. Thank you for joining us today. If this video spoke to you, consider sharing it with another woman who deserves to feel radiant again. Your voice matters here. And your story, like your color, is worth remembering. If this message resonated with you, don't let it stop here. Leave a comment below and share which color speaks to your spirit today, and why. And if you know a woman who's forgotten how radiant she truly is, send her this video. Because sometimes, all it takes is a color to remember who you are.